You were never meant to blend in, and deep down, you have always known that. Long before anyone said it out loud, you felt it in the way you questioned things others accepted, in the way your dreams stretched beyond what felt reasonable, in the way conformity felt uncomfortable. Blending in promises safety, approval, and silence, but it also demands something in return, your identity. Every time you try to shrink yourself to match the room, you trade authenticity for acceptance. And that trade is always too expensive. The world has a system designed to reward sameness. Follow this path. Think this way. Measure success by these rules. When you don't fit neatly into that system, you may be told you're difficult, unrealistic, or out of place. But history has never been changed by those who fit perfectly. The people who left a mark were the ones who stood out before they stood tall. They were misunderstood before they were celebrated. What made them different was not a flaw. It was the source of their vision. Blending in is easy because it asks nothing of your courage. Standing apart demands that you face doubt, criticism, and uncertainty. It requires you to trust your inner voice, even when it's quieter than the noise around you. That voice knows who you are becoming. When you ignore it, you feel restless. When you listen to it, you feel alive. That restlessness you felt isn't confusion, it's a signal that you were built for more than imitation. You don't need to look around to validate your direction. Most people are waiting for permission to be themselves, and permission rarely comes. If you wait to be understood before you act, you'll stay stuck in the same place as everyone else. The path that's meant for you won't always be crowded. Sometimes it will feel lonely. Sometimes it will feel risky. But that path is where growth happens, where character is forged, where purpose becomes clear. Trying to blend in teaches you to hide your strengths and exaggerate your weaknesses. It teaches you to dim your ideas before they're even spoken. Over time, that habit can make you forget what you're capable of. Owning your difference reverses that process. It brings clarity. It builds resilience. It forces you to develop confidence that isn't dependent on applause or approval. You are not here to repeat what already exists. You are here to contribute something only you can offer. Your perspective, shaped by your experiences, struggles, and values, cannot be replicated. When you embrace that truth, you stop chasing comparisons and start building conviction. You realize that blending in was never the goal. Becoming fully yourself was always the point. Difference is the birthplace of greatness, even though the world often treats it like a liability. From an early age, you're taught to measure yourself against a standard that was never designed with you in mind. Act like this. Think like that. Aim for what's considered realistic. When you don't align with those expectations, doubt starts creeping in from others and eventually from yourself. But greatness has never emerged from alignment alone. It emerges from friction, from contrast, from the refusal to accept limits that were handed down without question. Every major breakthrough began as an interruption. Someone saw what was and imagined what could be. They didn't arrive at that vision by copying the majority. They arrived there because they saw the world differently. That difference gave them the courage to challenge norms, to question rules, to push past comfort. If they had erased what made them different to fit in, the world would have lost what made them great. Your difference is not an obstacle on the road to success. It is the road. Being different often feels uncomfortable because it separates you from certainty. There's no clear map, no crowd to follow, no guarantee of approval. That uncertainty can feel heavy, especially when others seem confident walking paths already proven. But proven paths lead to predictable outcomes. If you want something extraordinary, you have to be willing to stand where few are standing. Difference forces you to rely on creativity instead of instructions, courage instead of consensus, belief instead of validation. The pressure to conform is subtle but constant. It shows up in advice that sounds practical but limits possibility. It shows up in comparisons that make you question your pace, your style, your voice. Over time, that pressure can convince you that your uniqueness is something to manage rather than something to maximize. But the very traits that make you feel out of place are often the same traits that allow you to see opportunities others miss. Greatness requires originality, and originality requires difference. You can't create impact by echoing what's already been said. You can't lead by repeating what everyone already believes. Difference sharpens perspective. It builds resilience because you learn to stand without approval. It strengthens character because you're forced to define success on your own terms rather than borrowing someone else's definition. When you embrace your difference, you stop competing on crowded ground. You stop chasing comparisons that were never fair to begin with. Instead, you start building something authentic, something rooted in who you are rather than who you're expected to be. That shift changes how you move, how you decide, how you respond to setbacks. You no longer see obstacles as signs to turn back, but as confirmation that you're carving your own lane. The word doesn't advance because everyone agrees. It advances because someone was willing to be different long enough to be effective. That willingness is where greatness begins, not after success arrives, not after approval shows up, but in the moment you decide to trust what makes you stand apart. Fear tries to disguise your power by convincing you that caution is wisdom and comfort is security. It whispers that staying where you are is safer than stepping into what you could become. It doesn't shout, it nudges. It sounds reasonable. It tells you to wait, to prepare more, to avoid risk until everything feels certain. But certainty is rarely available at the moments that matter most. Fear thrives in hesitation, and the longer you listen to it, the smaller your world becomes. Fear often shows up wearing familiar faces. It looks like self-doubt, overthinking, perfectionism, or the need for approval. It makes you question your ability before you've even begun. It reminds you of past failures and magnifies them until they feel like permanent labels. What fear never tells you is that those same moments were evidence of courage, proof that you were willing to try when comfort would have been easier. Fear reframes growth as danger and potential as threat. Your power doesn't disappear when fear arrives. It gets hidden. Fear doesn't remove strength. It distracts you from it. The moment you feel fear is often the moment you're standing closest to something meaningful. Fear tends to show up when there's something to lose, something worth protecting, something that matters. If there were no power within you, there would be no resistance against it. Fear is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that you are approaching the edge of your comfort zone. Many people mistake fear for intuition. They assume the discomfort means they're not ready or not capable. But intuition is calm, even when it's firm. Fear is loud, urgent, and reactive. It rushes you into retreat. Learning to tell the difference changes everything. When you pause instead of panic, you begin to see that fear has been exaggerating the risk while minimizing your ability to handle it. Fear feeds on isolation. It grows stronger when you keep your doubts unspoken and your ideas untested. In silence, fear can invent outcomes and convince you they are inevitable. Action weakens fear. Movement interrupts its narrative. Each small step forward challenges the story that you can't, that you shouldn't, that you're not enough. Confidence doesn't arrive before action. It is built through it. Your power is revealed when you act despite uncertainty. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move while fear is present. Every time you choose progress over paralysis, you reclaim a piece of yourself that fear tried to hide. You begin to trust your resilience instead of demanding guarantees. You learn that even when things don't go perfectly, you survive, you adapt, and you grow stronger. Fear will always try to negotiate with your potential. It will offer you smaller dreams in exchange for temporary comfort. It will ask you to delay your purpose for the promise of safety. But safety that costs you your growth eventually becomes its own kind of risk. When you stop letting fear define your limits, you start discovering how capable you actually are, how much strength has been waiting beneath hesitation, how powerful you become when you refuse to let fear speak louder than your purpose. Your struggles shaped your strength, even when it felt like they were breaking you instead. Every challenge you faced arrived without asking permission, without explaining its purpose, and without offering guarantees. In those moments, it was easy to believe that struggle was a sign of failure, a punishment, or proof that you were falling behind. But struggle is not random. It is formative. It presses, stretches, and refines you in ways comfort never could. Strength is not something you wake up with one day. It is built quietly in moments when quitting would have been easier. Each setback forced you to adapt. Each disappointment required you to endure. Each obstacle demanded that you find something deeper within yourself than talent or luck. What you survived taught you how to stand when things were uncertain. What you lost taught you how to value what truly matters. What tested you revealed resilience you didn't know you possessed. Struggle has a way of exposing truth. It strips away illusions and shows you what you're made of. When everything is going well, character stays hidden. When pressure arrives, it surfaces. The times you felt stretched beyond your limits were the times your limits expanded. You learned patience when progress was slow. You learned discipline when motivation faded. You learned courage when fear tried to take control. Those lessons were not comfortable, but they were necessary. Many people look at strong individuals and assume their confidence came from easy wins or natural ability. What they don't see are the long nights of doubt, the repeated failures, the moments of questioning whether it was all worth it. Strength is often misinterpreted as toughness, but real strength is endurance. It is the ability to keep moving forward while carrying weight no one else can see. It is the choice to rise again without knowing if the outcome will be different. Your struggles also sharpened your perspective. They taught you empathy, awareness, and depth. You understand pain because you felt it. You recognize perseverance because you've practiced it. This awareness changes how you move through the world. It grounds you. It gives your voice substance and your actions intention. The struggle you endured didn't just make you stronger, it made you wiser. There were moments when your struggle isolated you, when it felt like no one truly understood what you were carrying. In those moments, you learned self-reliance. You discovered how to encourage yourself when no one else did. You learned to trust your inner resolve when external support was limited. That independence became a foundation, teaching you that while support is valuable, your strength does not depend on constant validation. Struggle also clarified your priorities. It forced you to let go of what wasn't essential and focus on what was. When resources were limited, you learned creativity. When paths were blocked, you learned persistence. These skills were earned, not given, and they stay with you long after the struggle passes. They become tools you carry into every future challenge. If your life had been easy, you might have remained untested, unaware of your capacity to endure and overcome. The resistance you faced didn't arrive to stop you. It arrived to prepare you. Every struggle added a layer of resilience. Every challenge reinforced your ability to adapt. Every setback strengthened your resolve. What once felt like a burden has been shaping you into someone capable of handling what lies ahead. Someone grounded, capable, and unshaken by difficulty. Someone whose strength was forged, not gifted. Confidence grows when you own who you are, not when you become who others expect you to be. Many people spend years chasing confidence in the wrong places, believing it comes from approval, achievements, or recognition. They wait for compliments to feel worthy, for success to feel secure, for acceptance to feel confident. But confidence built that way is fragile because it depends on things you cannot fully control. The moment approval fades or circumstances change, that confidence begins to crack. Owning who you are is an internal decision. It begins when you stop apologizing for your personality, your pace, your voice, and your values. It means accepting that you don't need to be explained to everyone to be valid. When you constantly adjust yourself to fit into spaces that were never designed for you, you send yourself a quiet message that who you are is not enough. Over time, that message becomes a belief. Confidence weakens, not because you lack ability, but because you've learned to doubt your right to exist as you are. Real confidence is built through alignment. When your actions match your values, when your choices reflect your truth, you move through life with less resistance. You no longer feel divided between who you are and who you're pretending to be. That internal consistency creates stability. You trust yourself more because you know you're not performing for acceptance. Even when others disagree or disapprove, you remain grounded because your identity is no longer negotiable. Owning who you are also requires honesty. You have to acknowledge both your strengths and your flaws without exaggerating either. Confidence isn't pretending you have no weaknesses. It's understanding that weaknesses don't disqualify you. When you stop hiding your imperfections, you remove their power. What you accept about yourself can no longer be used against you. That acceptance creates freedom, and freedom strengthens confidence. Many people believe confidence should come before action, but confidence grows through repeated self and trust. Every time you make a decision that aligns with who you are, you reinforce that trust. Every time you speak honestly instead of conveniently, you strengthen your sense of self. These moments may feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to prioritizing approval, but discomfort is often the price of growth. Comparison is one of the greatest threats to confidence because it pulls your focus away from your own path. When you measure yourself against others, you adopt standards that ignore your unique context, timing, and purpose. Owning who you are shifts your attention inward. Instead of asking how you measure up, you begin asking whether you're being true to yourself. That shift changes the way you define success and progress. Confidence also grows when you stop seeking permission to take up space. You don't need universal agreement to pursue what matters to you. You don't need validation from everyone to move forward. The more you act from self-respect rather than fear of judgment, the more natural confidence becomes. It stops feeling like something you're trying to project and starts feeling like something you simply are. When you own who you are, setbacks no longer feel like personal attacks. You understand that failure is an event, not an identity. Because your confidence is rooted in self-acceptance, it can withstand mistakes and criticism. You recover faster, learn more, and continue forward without losing belief in yourself. Confidence built this way is quiet but powerful. It doesn't need to announce itself. It shows in how you carry yourself, how you make decisions, how you remain steady under pressure. The more you choose authenticity over approval, the more confidence grows naturally, steadily, and without force, shaping how you move through every room, every challenge, every opportunity that comes your way. Being different is your competitive edge, even if it hasn't always felt that way. In a world crowded with imitation, sameness competes for attention while originality commands it. When everyone is running in the same direction, following the same formulas, repeating the same ideas, difference becomes rare and rarity has value. What once made you feel out of place is often what positions you ahead because it allows you to see, think, and act beyond the limits of convention. Most competition exists on crowded ground. People compare themselves to others, measure progress by familiar standards, and chase success using identical strategies. That kind of competition is exhausting because it forces you to constantly keep up. When you are different, you step out of that race. You stop competing on speed alone and start competing on vision. Your edge comes from offering something others cannot replicate, your perspective, your approach, your voice. Difference sharpens problem solving. When you don't think like everyone else, you don't accept surface level answers. You question assumptions. You explore alternatives. This mindset allows you to find solutions others overlook because they're constrained by tradition or habit. Innovation is born from those willing to challenge the way it's always been done. Your difference pushes you to create instead of copy, to design instead of duplicate. Being different also builds resilience. When you don't rely on fitting in, you develop internal strength. You learn how to stand without constant approval. You become comfortable making decisions that aren't popular but are aligned with your purpose. This resilience becomes a powerful advantage in moments of pressure, uncertainty, or criticism. While others hesitate, waiting for reassurance, you move with conviction because your confidence is rooted in identity, not consensus. Your competitive edge grows when you stop hiding your difference. Many people spend years softening their opinions, diluting their ideas, or suppressing their instincts to avoid standing out. In doing so, they erase what makes them memorable. Standing out is not about being loud, it's about being authentic. When you lean into what makes you distinct, your presence becomes undeniable. People may not always agree with you, but they will remember you. Difference attracts opportunity. When you bring something unique to the table, you become difficult to replace. Skills can be taught, knowledge can be acquired. But perspective is shaped by experience, struggle, and individuality. That combination creates value. In environments where everyone looks the same, thinks the same, and operates the same, the person who brings contrast becomes essential. Your difference positions you as an asset rather than an option. Your edge also lies in how difference fuels growth. When you don't follow the standard path, you're forced to learn faster, adapt quicker, and trust yourself more deeply. You develop self-lean awareness because you can't rely on templates. You refine your judgment because you can't lean on crowds. This process strengthens decision-making and builds confidence through experience rather than theory. Being different doesn't mean being perfect. It means being intentional. It means understanding your strengths and building around them instead of wishing you had someone else's. When you focus on maximizing what makes you unique, you stop wasting energy on comparison. You channel that energy into mastery, creativity, and impact. Over time, that focus compounds, widening the gap between you and those still trying to fit a mold. Difference also changes how you respond to failure. When you're not copying others, failure feels less like falling behind and more like learning. You see setbacks as data rather than defeat. Each mistake refines your approach, sharpens your instincts, and strengthens your strategy. That adaptability becomes a long-term advantage, allowing you to evolve while others remain stuck, repeating what no longer works. The world rewards those who bring something new, something real, something bold. Your difference is not something to manage or minimize. It is something to sharpen, protect, and apply it with intention. When you fully embrace it, you stop competing for space and start creating it, turning what once set you apart into the very thing that keeps you ahead.